And we are back. Welcome, guys. My name is DK, and in this video, we're going to be breaking down the 3-game Olympic basketball slate. We got really good size contest for tomorrow. 20K to first in the big tournament. Also nice high stakes contest as well. So super excited for that. But yeah, if this is your first time watching, guys, cover content for daily fantasy sports as well as for player prop stuff. Prize picks, underdog, parlay play, straight betting. Parlay play, they are the sponsor of today's video. You can use the link down below for a $100 deposit match bonus. How it works is you're building out slips of player props. They do have alternate lines. They do have Olympic basketball props as well. So definitely would recommend getting over on Parlay Play. They also offer a ton of different discounts as well. So click that link down below or use the code DKDFS for that deposit match bonus. And if you do, it really does help support the channel. So greatly appreciate that. And yeah, if you guys are looking for more content, go check my Patreon link down below. It's been a great start. And let's just recap some things before we get in this video. So last slate, we took both first and second place in the big tournament. You absolutely love to see it. Now, my breakdown was I was prioritizing Carlik Jones, Tremont Waters, and Jokic as my spend ups, and then kind of mixing in the value from there. So $5,000, we got first place. We also got second place too. You love to see that. I think we got 2 more in the top 5 as well, all Patreon members. So great day yesterday. And then if you scroll back to the first slate, day 1, we also took first place, $10,000. So it's been a phenomenal start for DFS. And yeah, hoping we can keep that going for this slate. Again, guys, if you are interested in that, also you get props. Link is down below. All right, so let's start off here with Australia and Canada. So Australia, one thing to note is Dante Exum is expected to play. He missed their most recent game. So what that does is I don't really think it's going to affect the main guys too much, but I think it is going to make some of these value plays a bit riskier, minutes less secure for some of these kind of fringe rotation guys for Australia. But yeah, Giddey and Mills are at the top. 9-8 for Giddey, 9-1 for Mills. Of the two, I do prefer Josh Giddey just because I think he has a much higher floor. He has the ball in his hands a ton, obviously 8 assists. He's a good rebounder too. Where Patty Mills playing a little bit more off the ball, he's going to get a ton of shots up, and we know the ceiling is still there for Patty Mills. But I just think the floor is a little bit lower for Mills than Giddey. Not saying you can't play Mills for Giddey. I just think straight up Giddey is a slightly better option there. And then Jock Landale, 8.1K, 28 minutes. We know Australia runs a relatively tight rotation. You didn't even see Duop Reith in the rotation last game. Huge game for Jock Landale, 20 points, 9 boards, 5 assists. I will say I think that game was a bit of an outlier. I don't think you can expect that type of performance again from Jock, but still in play at the top. Exum at 8K. Just I don't think he's going to be on a limit, but still don't love the price point there for Dante Exum. Again, I think what Exum being in does, it kind of just makes some of these guys riskier, like Dyson Daniels, Josh Green, right? Not as high in those guys. 7-2 for Green, 7-1 for Daniels. Daniels had a decent game in 28 minutes last time out, but we'll expect him to lose some run. Nick Kay is going to start alongside Landale in the front court. 20 minutes, had an okay game. He's not the best point per minute player, but like in a reasonable play, right? You're not going to get like a huge game from Nick Kay, but he'll play decent minutes. And then, yeah, Ingles, no thank you. This McVay guy kind of had an outlier game as well. I took a look at his international stats. I would say 13.7 boards, 1 assist was a bit of an outlier for him. Also, again, we expect him to lose some run there too. With Exum back. And then Dellavedova only put a couple minutes. All right, let's talk about Canada. So Canada, you got SGA at the top of 10.3K. Solid spend up. However, I think there's other spend ups on the board that maybe have a little bit of a higher floor. But SGA does have a pretty high ceiling, right? 21 points, 7 assists, 5 boards last time out. So if you can afford SGA, he's a great spend up. RJ Barrett had a really solid game in 32 minutes, shot 8 of 13. However, the peripheral stats aren't as good as SGA. So, like, if I'm going to spend up for one of the 2 Canada guys, I would rather go to SGA over Barrett. Now, Jamal Murray, we kind of hinted at that he wasn't really playing a ton of minutes off the bench in those friendly games, and he once again came off the bench, only played 18 minutes. Also got extended a bit because 2 guys, I believe, fouled out. It was Dylan Brooks and Lou Dort. So yeah, I mean, I cannot play Jamal Murray unless he moves in the starting lineup. If he comes to the bench, there's just no way I can go there. Dylan Brooks had a decent shooting game. For Dylan Brooks is for what he usually does, I'll say. Yeah, 7.7K. It's just too expensive for Dylan Brooks. He's obviously a good defender, and he'll be out there a decent amount, but you can't pay me to pay 7.7K for him. I'm also not paying 6.3K for Dwight Powell. I know he fouled out, but he just doesn't do a ton out there offensively. Lou Dort started, played 18 minutes, dealt with massive foul trouble. If he starts again, I do think he's playable because of the price point. But again, he's one of the primary defenders. Nemhard, NAW were in the rotation. They didn't do much. NAW, 13 minutes, 0 of 5 shooting. Nemhard played 14 minutes. Again, kind of tough to prioritize either of those guys. I still think Olynyk's playable. We know what Olynyk is going to do, right? He's going to come off the bench. He's probably going to play around 15 minutes or so. So center's kind of weak. I think he's playable. You saw a little bit of Trey Lyles in the rotation, but I think I'd rather go to Olynyk at a similar price point, and then that's basically it for Canada. Move on to France and Japan. So France, they played all 12 guys. That is absolutely disgusting. But yeah, Wembanyama is the one guy that got solid minutes, 31 minutes, 46 fantasy points. We know the ceiling is massive on Wembanyama, and it's a great match pair against Japan. So if you want to spend up for Victor Wembanyama, I have no issue with that. He obviously looks great at the top. Gobert at 8-7, I just don't think I can do it. Did deal with a little bit of foul trouble. However, he got benched in the second half. He came off the bench. And again, just the way that this France team's running their rotation, I find it really hard to get to Gobert. I also find it really hard to get to Evan Fournier. He only played 13 minutes. Nick Batum was the one other guy that played good minutes. 34 minutes for Nick Batum. I just don't think we can expect 34 minutes again from Batum. So, I think he's a decent option in the mid-range. I think he will be a little bit over-owned by the more casual players. Again, I don't think we can expect anywhere close to 34 minutes again for Batum. And then, yeah, they just really spread it out. Bilal Coulibaly played 10 minutes. Frank Ntilikina played 21 minutes. I would say that's a really good game for Ntilikina's standards. If I'm going to play another person on France, I'll probably take a shot on I would say probably a Yabusele at 4.2, played 16 minutes off the bench just because of the price point. Lazort played a little bit. DeColo only played in the first half. We know he's a good point per minute player, but again, only played one rotation. Whatever a Andrew Obesi is, played 16 minutes. He's not a great point per minute player. Cordier's an awful point per minute player in 17 minutes. They started Strazzle, but only played him 5 minutes. This France rotation is just a mess, man. I think it's clearly Wembanyama. Your next safest play minutes-wise is Batum. And then if I'm going to play a value play, I think I would take a shot on a Yabusele at that price. I'm moving on to Japan. So I played a lot of Japan last slate, and it worked out in a big way. Now, here's the thing. Japan's not great. They're one of the worst teams in the Olympics for basketball. However, they run a very tight rotation, and point differential matters. So these main guys are still going to play a ton, assuming no injury or foul trouble, right? Rui Hachimura, 4 of 19 shooting, still for 39 fantasy points. I know, France, really good defensive team. France plays slow. However, it's really just a minutes thing. So Rui looks good at the top. Hawkinson, as long as he can avoid foul trouble, I think is a really good option here. 35 minutes, 35 fantasy points. The issue is there definitely is some foul risk, right? You got Wembanyama and Gobert on the other side, so there is some foul risk there for Hawkinson. And then Yuta Watanabe, 34 minutes. We're a little bit worried about that. It was his calf, I believe, injury. 34 minutes. He looks great too. So even though France is good defensively, and even though Japan's not great, those 3 main guys are going to play a ton as long as there's no injury or foul trouble. Alamara, still think is viable. 25 minutes for starting point guard. Has the ball in his hands a ton. I think he's a reasonable play there in the mid-range. Yoshi, 31 minutes, 21 fantasy points. Not a great point per minute player, but in play because of the minutes. I think if I'm going to take a shot one of the cheaper guys, I'd rather go to Kalamara. Or Yuta Watanabe, I think is your best, if you consider him value. But then I would rather go to Kalamara over Yoshi. And then, Tominga, they just didn't play the bench. Tominga played 1 minute. Togashi played 14 minutes. He's not a good point per minute player. Hijima played a few minutes. Again, he's a shooter, but again, only 6 minutes. Yude Baba only played 4 minutes. I took his under. I was shocked the books even had it up. Took his under 3.5 rebound prop. It was minus 115. They had props on both Draftkings and BetMGM. Tweeted that out. The lines weren't up long. Complete error line. So I cannot wait for random massive foul trouble for Yuta Watanabe and Baba to get extended and somehow go over that prop. But even in the World Cup, Yuta Baba averaged 2.5 rebounds per game in 22 minutes per game. And he played 4 minutes last game off the bench. So let's finish up here. Germany and Brazil. Germany is another team. They're similar to France. They run a relatively deep rotation, and they are a good team. But the offense is still run through Franz and Schroeder, right? 26 minutes last game for Franz Wagner. Dennis Schroeder, 28 minutes. Not ideal minutes, but again, they're going to be super productive. So Schroeder, Franz, both good options. If I had to pick between the two, I think I would rather take the discount with Schroeder over Franz, but both do have a pretty high ceiling. Daniel Theis, going to be very productive in the minutes that he's out there. However, again, Germany's running 4 bigs. They're kind of splitting the minutes up relatively evenly. So I have a tougher time paying 7.5K for Daniel Theis. Voutman, the other starter, 6'7", played 20 minutes, didn't have the best game. You got Mo Wagner who's going to come off the bench and be super productive. But again, the price is up a little bit on him at 6.5. The other big, Thiemann, at 4.1, played 18 minutes. He's honestly probably the easiest to get to because of the price point. I don't hate him at that price. Andreas Ope started, only played 18 minutes. Here's the thing with Andreas Ope, though, right? He's basically out there for shooting. He's not going to do a ton else. If he's not making shots, he's not going to do a ton. I'm a little bit surprised he only got 2 shots up as well. He's had some big games in the past, so he's playable in tournaments. Isaac Bonga had a really good game off the bench as well, 20 minutes. I would say a bit of an outlier. However, again, only 4.9K. He's playable for value. I'll pass on Weiler or Bob, whatever that is. I would rather go to Thiemann or Bonga for a little bit more. And then Emlo, again, 13 minutes. Could get extended a little bit because they are decent favorites here against Brazil. So I guess like a viable dart throw. If Germany's up big, you could see the bench get extended. And then finally, Brazil. So Brazil's a really interesting team here because I think the casual players / box score watchers will miss some good options here for Brazil. So let's kind of talk about it, right? Bruno Caboclo is the first guy I want to mention. Now, I was on massive tilt mode last game because I got Caboclo low ownership and he was just a massive foul trouble, barely played the entire game. And people were like, oh, you can't play Bruno because, they're going up against France. Well, let's see what his backup did. Cristiano Felicio, Bulls legend, absolutely smashed in 29 minutes, right? So, like Bruno Caboclo, he was the clear go-to guy in like those qualifying games. He's averaging like 18 points per game. I think casual players will to see 11 minutes, 8 fantasy points can completely avoid. But I am fine going right back to the well there for Bruno Caboclo. Guy Santos, Golden State Warrior legend, played 24 minutes off the bench. Playable, but it doesn't really stand out to me. Huertas, I think, is a solid option. 26 minutes, 22 fantasy points. He's going to have the ball in his hands a ton. Reasonable price point there. Menadil, 5.5K, 27 minutes, had a decent game. I think he's a pretty solid value play. Raul Neto did not even play. Lucas Diaz is another interesting option here, right? A box score watcher, I think, will completely avoid him. However, if he avoids foul trouble, he should play mid to high 20s minutes. We know Germany's a big team, right? And it's not like Diaz had like amazing numbers, but I think he was averaging those like 10 points, 6 boards, something like that. So I think he's another interesting bounce back candidate here at 5.2. Felicio, I think, will be overowned by the casual players. 29 minutes, 23 fantasy points. The only reason he got that run is just massive foul trouble for both Diaz and Bruno Caboclo. So unless you think those guys are going to get massive foul trouble again, I think it's tough to get to Felicio. He'll be productive. He's going to play the backup 5, and he'll be productive in the minutes that he plays. But you can't expect anywhere close to the 29 minutes that he got again there. I'll pass on Benete, who had kind of an outlier game there in 13 minutes. I will say I think Dos Santos is playable. Their backup point, 14 minutes. Decent point per minute player. Not going to expect huge minutes from him, but he's relatively cheap and will be productive when he's out there. And then that's basically it. I'll pass on Cardoso. Okay, so if you want a more in-depth breakdown of roster construction videos, player pool, live stream before lock as well, all that will be over on Patreon and Discord access and player props. Check it out. Link is in the description. But thanks again for watching. If you do enjoy, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We'll see you guys all in the next video.